just a little announcement. I know Beth was telling me there's quite a few people indicated that they'd like to join the local peace group, Just Peace. Just Peace is a member of the Independent and Peaceful Australia network, but we also have representatives from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom here, and possibly other groups. So, you know, getting involved as a member and being able to act collectively is what it's all about. Now, we are going to move seamlessly. Yes, Wayne?
Curious, you had Amy Maguire from Currumbin Institute.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that unfortunately Amy was unable to come this afternoon. So I'm very disappointed about that, but yes, we were unable to get in touch with her. You know, we've been trying all day to get in touch with her.
Yeah, I think it's very noticeable because what we're seeing played out at the moment is the Currumbin Institute being subject to persecution by the Melbourne University and some of the faculties out of the University of Queensland. And I think it's when we're talking about peace, and we're actually seeing this now, that judge that was hired by the Queensland UQ to investigate the Currumbin Institute, Chelsea Wattigo, and her associates, that finding was handed down last week that hasn't been made public.
Right.
That is very restrictive and very draconian. And I think it is being played out by key personnel within the University of Queensland and the Melbourne University. I've called out Marcia Langton and the other associates down at Melbourne University were actually persecuting and direct attacks on Chelsea Wattigo and the associates with Currumbin Institute. And I think it, you know, people should be very, 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 very ashamed of what direct persecution is taking place in this city amongst the academics in this city, to the point where these young academics are being restricted in how they communicate and how they participate in the rest of the community.
Yeah, absolutely, Wayne. And I think it's
damaging to come out of this in relation to that. Because I know for certain that the Institute has been put under white management.
Yep. Well, we may very well have a resolution from this conference in support of the unit at QUT and supporting the academics that have been affected by the decision making of those upper level universities. UQ is not looking good at this point in time, particularly given the restrictions that have been put on about public protest in relation to support for Palestine as well. So there's a trend here that really does need to be resisted.
And the people that are leading this charge are Black Aboriginal academics.
Right. Well, we'll follow up on that, Wayne.
Now more than ever,
yeah,
particularly with this Labor government, people have to be conscious on the narrative and who are trying to control the narrative and what that narrative of freedom of speech actually really is.
Narrative of freedom of speech is just so absolutely vital. Now we can
and that at some point before we disperse today.
Yeah, sure.
Either unanimous or the majority of people say we support this because this woman that's being persecuted.
The unit and the personnel involved that have been subjected to the restriction of their freedom of speech and the penalties.
Vice Chancellor, all these other.
All right.
Yeah.
It's not in detail, but in general, can I have a show of hands for supporting this coming from this conference? Overwhelming. Thank you very much for sharing that at this point, Wayne. And this is the sort of dialogue really we want to have in this plenary, which is moving right into it now. Now we're very fortunate to have here with us a couple of academics from UQ.
You might like to mention that on the 5th of August, there is a public meeting out of one of the academics who's at UQ, because the NTU is actually supporting
that. Yeah, that's great.
So
yeah, I'll leave it to Winnifred to talk about that, but just to introduce Winnifred and Hema. Where have we got Winnifred? Where are you? There you are. Winnifred is a professor in psychology at the University of Queensland. She has published over 200 scholarly publications, and her research examines how identity and norms influence social decision making. It sounds very dry, really, compared to what you actually do. Winnifred, it works in the Social Change Lab. So she really does some amazing work in trying to research and to provide information about techniques and how people change their mind, the sort of actions that we can take as activists and people involved in politics that will actually have an impact on the way people think and their knowledge. And Hema is a senior lecturer in social psychology also at UQ. She received her PhD from the Massachusetts Amherst. Her research is in the section of social and political psychology, focusing on intergroup relations. So they're both admirably suited to managing this plenary and this opportunity for us to share our thoughts about what we've heard during the day, and to engage in ideas of how we can collectively do our best to bring peace to this region in particular, but more generally.
Thanks so much, Annette. And let me just ask everyone, thank you, Russ. Let me just ask everyone first to join me in thanking Annette and the organizing team. What an amazing conference we've had. So Hema and I are going to tag team here, and for this we're going to channel Trish and her experience as a teacher. So we're inviting everyone at the back to actually find a chair at a table. We're inviting everyone at a table to take note of your Post-it notes that we've given you and to divide them so each person has a green, blue, and orange. And we also have given you pens. So each person should get a green, each person should get a blue, each person should get an orange. If you're short, just put your hand up. I'm going to keep talking. You folks at the back, could you please join a table? And there's heaps of chairs. Each person should have a green, each person should have a blue, each person should have an orange. And we also have given you some pens. If you don't have a pen, please take a pen. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have 4 activities and we're going to do them and still finish on time. You know why? Because we have superpowers. Before though, I'm going to make a general announcement in light of Uncle Wayne's comment. You know, many of you know that I'm the proud member of the National Tertiary Education Union. The NTU has been a strong voice against academic repression. It is very serious at UQ. We've seen seminars canceled. We've had postgrads instructed not to speak out. I myself have been directly told not to speak out and not to organize. So real shift in the standards. On August 5th at 12 noon at UQ, please join us in solidarity against the repression of our academic colleagues and our students. But also please inform yourself about academic repression If you Google it, you'll find that here in Australia, in a recent inquiry into academic repression, over 250 people submitted instances of having been censored. And we currently are running a study on academic repression. So far, we only have several hundred people, and we're hoping to get more than 1,000. But we find that fewer than 15% of our academic colleagues are telling us they feel free, completely free to do their work without any fear of consequences. So it has never been worse. It's really striking. Fewer than 15% of academics in our survey, which is of course the people who are concerned. It is terrible. So we're hoping to get a larger sample so we can understand what's going on. But I encourage you also to come to the rally on the UQ campus from the NTU, and I'm happy to share details as well. Okay, activity number 1 will take less than 5 minutes and is to be done individually. Everyone needs a pen. Could you please write down on your pieces of paper, on the green one, a question that you have from today? On the orange one, something that struck you, an exciting theme or a connection, something that was new to you from today? And on the blue one, could you please write down an action that you think you can take after today? So this is an individual task, and you Zoomers, if you could just make some notes on your own paper. I'm sorry, we can't teleport the Post-it notes to you. So a question that you have after today, an exciting theme or something you noticed in the talks today, and an action that you think you could take after today. Action we thought could be blue, but I mean, having said that, it's only so that afterwards we're going to put the Post-it notes up and everyone can watch them, read through the columns. So green for questions so we can grow, orange for themes, alert, and blue for action, the water, the oceans of peace. Yep, so we're not going to say anything for 5 minutes because we're going to write down our own actions and questions. So you've got a couple more minutes. So I'm just checking how many Zoomers you have. Zoomers, I'm going to put you into a breakout room in a minute, which will simulate the experience of the guys here who are at tables. So I'm going to randomize you into a breakout room with about 5 people per room. Over to you, Emma, if you want to lead the group part. Yep. I'm thinking a personal action, but if you want to go big, that would suit your personality.
I love you and you please. I love you with that.
Thank you. Now all I have to do is remember how to do breakout rooms. Oh, what if there's no breakout rooms?
Let's close that because it's gonna typing in.
Mhm. All right, let me just encourage you to finish your genius thought. And hopefully we're going to go to the group activity next.
No, I don't think there is an option here.
What a shame. Okay. Zoomers, I don't think we can give you a small group experience because the breakout function might not be enabled here, but what we're going to do is invite you to follow my directions in the chat. So I'll be managing the chat while Hema manages the room. Hema?
So we're gonna speak again.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I think. About 15 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, so now in your tables, we would like you to talk to each other and share a little bit about what you wrote down. And maybe try to think about what are your favorites here? What are the ones that are standing out here for your action? For the kind of questions you're having and maybe theme. Now, there could be common stuff that emerge, but it could also be something that someone says that you didn't think about before. So we just like you to have a bit of discussion. After, listening to all the information today, we thought it was good to have some space where you talk to one another. So the way we thought about this is to talk within your table, but of course, you can also talk to the person behind you and in your group sections. So we'd like you to do this for about 15 minutes. Go.
And why are they not posting? Maybe they're still writing.
Maybe they, yeah. Well, could they talk amongst themselves if we
No, it comes over the Zoom. Yeah, they have to go into a breakout. But let me just say, Zoomers, we are inviting you to post your questions in the chat right now. Questions that you had after today. Great, thanks, Greg. Yep. And we've got 34 of you online, so we're hoping for 30 more questions. But like I said, if you're playing video games, no worries, please keep going.
or they could talk about themes or
Yeah.
yeah.
Great question, Michaela. And I'm not sure if the Zoomers are all busy typing, but I'll just invite you to go ahead and post your themes and your actions as well. And if you, I think they'll be pretty clear. And so we're looking for Zoomers' questions, themes, and actions in the chat. Yeah. Great. No, it was around 2:45, when we started the group. Yeah. About 10 more, I think. Did we do our own?
Yeah, I was looking at what you had.
And I think this is more research on what we're facing.
And probably we'll want to invite one person to make sure they come to the front.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for engaging. We're going to bring it back to the big group. All right, thank you. Thank you all for chatting in your group. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring it back to the big group, and so that we can all kind of hear a little bit about what you've been chatting about in your in your tables. So we would actually like one volunteer per table to give us a bit of the highlights. So what you think is your favorite theme, action, and question maybe. So do not list everything that you talked about, but maybe just give us a bit of a flavor of that, and feel free to build on each other's points as well. So maybe we'll start on this side, on this table in the front here. And can I ask one brave volunteer to come up here to speak, just so people online can also hear you?
Just read out one of them.
Oh, read out.
Read out one of each, you know, it can be anyone.
Only one.
Yeah, just a flavor, that's right, but just to share, okay, who's the best one? Yeah, no. And no pressure if you don't wanna rank them, right? Let's not say you have to rank the ideas, but give us a flavor, read out one of each.
All right, this is.
Oh, sorry, but come to the podium.
Okay. All right. All right. This is a very creative, almost like theatre of the oppressed suggestion. Instead of a moment of silence, was it a particular event? For the Hiroshima Day, that we actually have a moment of screaming, because they were in the stories today about hearing people screaming, that actually to have a visceral moment of that absolute horror, you know, at the very core of your being, and that might actually reverberate in people's consciousness.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do that now.
Maybe we'll do that at the end of the conference, we can all scream together. All right, let's go to table back there, and I have a moment here. Sorry, we do need to come in front.
Emma, the people online don't know that you've come to them. That you've come over there.
No.
Jeff. It's Emma Wetty, the President of the Pacific Islands Council of Queensland, and sharing with me for our group is Jeffrey, who's one of our board members from West Papua. Our group, the question on the green note was, how can we continue the conversations on Pacific peace and issues raised today as a consistent collective? So let's not just wait for in 2 years' time. Let's just try and work together to get some of these conversations going. The one on what we've learned, learning from all the speakers about us being, us working together as a collective, very important. And also hearing from all those who work in this space. We're so grateful for what they've shared with the great work that they're doing. The speakers in the morning, thank you for that. And for some of us, meeting all of you, those of you who we have not met. And that's been an incredible blessing and opportunity. So, and thank you for the great work. So I will let Jeff give you our action.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had a lot of, we had a great ideas, but we try not to come up with one, but it was quite challenging. And we were inspired about, there was a speaker from a lady from Marianas, island. It says, let us be the ancestors that our descendants with thanks. Yeah, that's something that really inspired us. And then, looking forward to be that that to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just, sorry, can I just jump in? Can I just invite the tables that have finished speaking to put your Post-it notes over there on the wall on the way out? You can see that there's green, orange, and blue columns. So you might like to send one person over. It doesn't have to be the speaker. Okay, over to you, Hema. Oh, Hema's calling. Sorry, Zoomers, we keep forgetting to stand in front of the camera. Hema is actually calling someone over from another table, and here she is.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Seal Chongwa of the Greens Party. So I've really enjoyed today. It's been amazing, and thank you to the organisers and speakers, extraordinary. So the question firstly, how can grassroots groups come together to disrupt vested power structures? The question. For me, I've connected with Senator David Shoebridge, so I will hopefully move a motion in Brisbane City Council regarding nuclear in chambers, hopefully on Tuesday. So that's my action. Thirdly, the table here is like with Uncle Coco and the other members of the table here, stop deep sea mining. And what I found really, I never just thought of it like this. Obviously, we know that there's hundreds of nations across Australia, but I really liked what Uncle Coco was saying about the 401 state solution or 401 nations solution. So I thought that was just, yeah, very powerful. So I'll use that in my narrative.
Thank you so much. Can I invite the next table?
Over here.
Thank you. Our group really had a lot of awesome questions, but they figured I should take on these two these two questions. We have one. The first question is, what can Australia do? Now, I only asked this question due to over 7 years of experience in spaces, and meaning when it comes to demilitarization, when it comes to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons and all this, somewhat everyone outside of the Pacific feels the need that it is the Pacific who needs to sign and ratify this treaty first because they are easy to get. Now, even if we sign and ratify all this treaty, and most of us have, would conflict and war still end? We are not armed states. We can all move motions and everything. At the end of the day, we are not nuclear weapon states. If conflict goes on, it goes on. We sign, ratify, still will be a victim or receiver of it. So the question is, what can Australia do? Two, there was a lot to take in on presentation, and so grateful for all the rich in knowledge and wisdom. One of the question I had in mind that after hearing perspectives on around militarization, nuclear weapons, and so forth, I think one of the phrases that keep coming out was that this is the blame game, US, France, Russia. But Australia is somewhat an independent country. Why can't Australia stand its own grounds and make their own decision? The blame game will go round and round, but we need to stand firm and strong on our sovereign or on our independence and say, no, this is where we stand and this is where it ends. This generational trauma, crimes, and everything ends with us. So I think for those two questions, what can Australia do? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary, for pushing us to think about these questions. And can I go to the next table to continue on? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the theme that we sort of had, it was relatively broad, but it was about how widespread the coalition is. Faith groups, workers groups, activist groups, political parties that are upset and very concerned about the current situation, that are dismayed with the lack of action that's been taken so far, and want to see broader solidarity and working more consistently toward peace. And so the questions sort of revolved around, how can we broaden our voice? How can we broaden our coalition in our unions, in our workplaces, in our political parties, in our communities? And actions, generally speaking, were, it was around that. So we talked a lot about talking to friends, talking to family, getting more people involved, having more continuous groups, and really building that coalition to make sure that, everybody's voices are being heard.
Bring that up there. All right, look at this. We already had kind of a bit of a habit here. The next person's just coming up. I didn't need to say anything. Yeah.
No, we had a wonderful group, and they're all creative people in different ways. We ended up wondering how we can empower 120 people who've been online and in this room today. But the questions were, how do we empower them? And it's really to strengthen our Pacific family. And when we talked about the Pacific family, we asked about, will the desert people, First Nations people, connect with the Pacific Islanders? Well, the issues are just the same, so I think the answer is probably yes. What skills do we need to do these sorts of things? Yes. All of this turns about how today we empower the people who are here so that you go away with a fire in your belly and certain things that you feel like you can do. So the actions that, there were quite a bit of conversation, but really this is a Pacific Peace Network. This has got exactly the right name. It's set up for this exact purpose. So yes, go for it, Annette. We really need to support you in many, many ways about keeping this alive and keeping our connections that we've made today. But not more than that, the in-depth things about climate change is going to bite us on the bum very, very soon. It already has chased people to resettle in other places from the Pacific and will continue to do so. And 160,000 beautiful mansions in Australia are going under. So those people will have to resettle too, and they can afford to. But anyway, we need to do, what can Australia do? We can do things with partners, we can do things with policy, and we can definitely do practice in our own backyard. So that's our group. I told you that was creative.
Thank you very much. And I see kind of common things coming up with the organizing and the importance to continue the solidarity and continue the conversation. So that's great to see.
Don't forget to put all your Post-it notes in the back wall there. Yeah.
Okay. We didn't get very far in our group. We had we only talked about 3 of our Post-it notes. So the thing I think that sort of that brings together the bits that we did talk about is a sort of exciting theme, which is the idea that we're close to seeing the US government for what it really is. And I say the government as opposed to the country specifically. I'm not a fan of demonizing countries overall. And that this connects to a number of other things that we were discussing. And the one thing is the question of how can we encourage people to join peace movements and for peace movements to connect better together, which is a very familiar chestnut to us all. And, you know, I think it's probably a good moment for that, because there is stuff that is usually subtext that is more text at the moment, which makes life easier. So that was helpful, because like the big challenge, you know, stopping that massive westward projection of US power across the Pacific this way. I mean, that requires a fundamental shift and huge pressures and changes. For my own personal action, just to finish off, it was sort of inspired by our friend from Labour Against War talking about Australia being sort of peaceful in Asia, and sort of Pacific and Asia. So I'm going to do some work on this to articulate in sort of specific and detailed ways what it looks like for Australia to be secure in a peaceful Pacific and Asia region, that we actually need to describe what it is that we want to see.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Charlie. We also discussed some very similar themes around solidarity, which was mentioned by many speakers, and solidarity across different contexts and across difference. So whether that be religious groups, labor organizations, unions, government, non-government organizations, that's all really important. Our questions mainly revolved around how we can persuade more people to speak up for peace, building better connections with our Pacific neighbours, We also discussed quite in depth how activists in Australia can advocate and collaborate with comrades regarding Indigenous issues and issues in Pacific and Southeast Asia, whilst also acknowledging the power imbalance between Australia and these kinds of issues. And how can we engage in solidarity without resorting to paternalism and neo-colonialism that's often framed in like the white savior complex. Our actions mainly revolved around joining local grassroots organizations, spreading the word about peace groups, and trying to get the word out for everyday Australians.
Beautiful.
Can I say something?
Okay.
You have to go to the. I got that, I just wanted to know if you were gonna say I had to go to a different table, because you think it would be fair.
We do want to give the guys room too, but go ahead, Sol.
This is just my personal one. I got it all mixed up in different colors and different directions and all kinds of stuff like that. But anyway, my passion from this event is to myself and to encourage others to work with First Nations out in the desert areas where there's so often no resources whatsoever. And also with the Pacific, Guahan, otherwise known as Guam, and all the places where the militarization is taking place. We really need to get in there behind that mob. I've got 20 years in the desert and 20 years before that in the Pacific. So I'm really happy to be part of a group that wants to actually get it behind that and make sure that these the people who are most marginalized are no longer marginalized in this particular case, because it is so important. And we so often overlooked. And Uncle, thank you for everything you contributed today. I want to build my passion for action on climate, and I wrote down the unions, but I don't know why. But anyway, but mainly it's just about the learning how I need to think about it. Going and living in the desert with women elders is one thing, but at their request is one thing, but figuring out how to fit all this other stuff that we've been thinking about today into that's going to be big.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. I'm going to read our questions and actions and whatever, because our discussion was actually around listening to each of the contributions and identifying the linkages between them. So let me start with questions. Because I think this is really quite useful. I'm sorry? Is there a role or a position for someone to work on militarization of Indigenous lands, either in Australia or across the region? It's good food for thought. Next question. What is stopping awareness and action amongst the wider Australian community? Also a valid question. Themes. Recognized themes were US domination and placement across our region, the links across climate and environment matters, militarization of Indigenous lands, and an understanding on the part of the American military and others in America that people are expendable, which is really quite shocking. Another thing, they've been killing people en masse for decades, and people thought they had stopped, but actually they hadn't. We should practice earth care, not warfare, driven by Indigenous Pacific peoples. Okay, action. I'm sorry. Seek out diverse perspectives and incorporate them into our understandings and actions, and make the plan happen. Whatever we decide on the basis of our informed discussion, make it happen. And a very general overview: support Palestinians, scrap AUKUS, sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Nuclear Weapons Treaty. Thank you.
All right. Come up even while we're waiting, so please come on down. Don't really have to read all the questions and themes unless you really want to, in which case you're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ali. Our questions here are how to change the foundational narrative that supports erroneous and negative, if I've said that correctly, and negative dialogue for example, what is a terrorist? Okay, that type of thing. And I guess it's not like painting the picture of Muslims and how what happens with Muslims is that they get scapegoated, that type of thing, for their religion or just who they are. How to impact on policy making, how to clean up our own house and start Aboriginal reconciliation process, if that's what they want. But this is just a question that everyone asks. I've learnt through my learnings with Indigenous speakers is that some Indigenous people don't want reconciliation, and that's something to think about as well. How to get militarisation out of the education system, and what we're here today for is specifically we're talking about the Pacific, how to get militarisation out of the Pacific. Questions? Do you want to talk? Okay. Questions here. Or actions? Yeah, those were the questions. Actions such as protest rallies more often, collective actions, become a member in more networks. What I found interesting was Donna Weeks's speaking in another language, and also the union guy who talked about in Asia, not from Asia. And yeah, the lessons that can be learnt from that war, like the Japanese war, World War II. Themes such as rising choking and punishing of civil liberties. Yeah. How many debates still centre on US influence and Trump, and then an action to join a peace organisation like Just Peace or WILF. What's the F stand for in WILF? Freedom. Well, that's most important. So Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Okay. Yeah, that's all of the post-it notes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, please come on down. I think we have 2 tables left. Basically, please come on down. Okay.
Oh, hello, I'm Francis. Our group questions, we sort of liked the following two. One is what contributes to a dominant group changing? And another one, which was a good one, strategies for involving young people in the anti-war movement. So making the links between climate change issues and war preparation. We talked a little bit about seeing a lot of young people in the Palestine rallies, and how to make that linkage with the way the military isn't accountable for the pollution and the destruction, environmental destruction that they cause. Striking themes was Coco's address, finding the emphasis on Australia's own complicit colonial past and the need to keep focus on First Nations disadvantage. Also the seemingly insurmountable obstacles to how to combat militarization in the Pacific with Pacific nations, and yet amazingly the courageous actions of activists, and noticing it's many young women. Another under themes, the need for change, address vested interests, and build resilience. In actions, we sort of didn't talk too much about those, but we talked about actions which are current, and it's centered on things like the action last night with the pots and pans, the Palestinian rally, and the fact that sometimes it was felt that noise can possibly alienate some people, although it's important to have at times. So we also heard about some silent vigils that are being held, one in Toowoomba where they get 30 to 40 people regularly, and that's sort of can be quite powerful. And here in Brisbane we have a peace vigil once a month, and it was also the people who go to the Boeing office once, I think it's every week, and protest there. So it's a direct focus on one particular manufacturer of weapons. I think that's everything.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'll just close with a couple of reflections that Hema and I had, and depending on whether, Hema, you feel like yours have already been spoken. One that hasn't been spoken is I was struck by the fact that the presentations really made me reflect on how imperialism is something that lasts centuries, and the peace movement has lasted decades and centuries. So intergenerational transmission of action is really important. And we heard that in Uncle Coco's reflection on activist families. But also, I think today I saw generational renewal. You know, this is certainly one of the peace movement's events that I've seen at which there were the greatest proportion of younger speakers. And how wonderful to see you raising your questions, advocating for your actions. Thank you, Mary, for your leadership as well, and for others, young leaders that we've seen from all over the Pacific. So thank you for your great work. What a pleasure to see someone like Hema coming through as a young person. I'm gonna just like position you that way, Hema. We all feel like there's new renewal, people coming in, and isn't that a pleasure? Did you want to add anything? I'll just go with the Zoomers last, yeah.
Well, so I'm originally from Malaysia, so I just.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm originally from Malaysia, and I keep wondering, is that in the Pacific or not? Because sometimes it's included as Pacific Asian countries. It's a Southeast Asian country. So I've just been reflecting on that, and I think that's a question that I just have personally.
That's a question. Is Malaysia?
Yeah.
It's close enough. I think it should be affected if there are kind of nuclear arms in this area. So in that sense, yeah, we are affected. Yeah,
that's great. Did you want to say?
No, I don't think so.
It's about where they identify themselves.
Yeah, that's right. Zol's on saying, for the benefit of the Zoomers, it's about how you identify yourself, whether you're in the Pacific or not. And I guess that's the point that our young colleague from Labour Against War was making, that it's about time we started identifying. in Australia that were from the Pacific. So thank you to the Pacific Peace Network that has taken us in this direction. I think it's been a wonderful day. I want to acknowledge Zoomers that you haven't had a chance to speak. And as we look towards closing, I want to address one question I saw in the chat, which is that the chat is definitely being recorded and downloaded. And I saw Janet promising that the whole chat would be made available for people that wanted to read it later. Some of us in the room have been seeing the things blip by, right? And we want to know what was in there. So we will represent you in that way. But would anyone like to make a comment just into the room as our final comment about a question or a theme or an action? And no worries if not. Let me just turn the chat off so we can see. There's a function called raise your hand in Zoom, but you can also just unmute and go ahead and start speaking. Let's see. And if not, then I'm going to hand it over to Annette in a moment.
I wouldn't mind to say one little thing.
Great, please do.
So,
you, and then I will pin you just a second. Go ahead,
Saskia.
Saskia.
So I don't know how I ended up in this conference, but I very much enjoyed the conversations. But I was quite active in the 1980s, 90s in the Pacific nuclear-free and nuclear-free Pacific. And it's so good to see young people stepping in and that this theme is coming back. Maybe not only about nuclear, but about peace. And I think the relationship between small nations in the Pacific and the bigger nations is very important. I mean, we need to be allies for each other. So thank you so much for organizing, and a special go ahead for the young people.
Yes, wonderful words, Saskia. Thank you.
Hi, Zol. See you.
And Zol, you'll see in the chat there were all sorts of people saying, "Wow, so great to see Zol again." Here is our closing words from Annette, our brilliant conference organizer. Another round of applause for Annette and the team.
Yeah, well, I can only echo that there has been a really, it's been really great to bring so many people. I think the young man here, Jacob, who really did sum up, and it made me think just how sort of cross-representative this gathering, both in person and online. And we did in fact have 48 people online at one stage, and a lot of people stayed on really pretty close to the end. That's quite interesting in itself. But also we had 81 people here in the room. So I think, you know, we've been successful in bringing that significant size group, but also a very diverse group with lots of cross political and cultural backgrounds. So yeah, let's build on it. I think that's the big thing, is to build on what we've had today. So I would just like to say thanks to the small group that worked together to bring this conference together. Trish Dwyer, where's Trish? Trish from Wilf has done a fantastic job with, well, just attending, being there as part of the organising group, but also doing all the organising for the food, and the food was fabulous. So
notes were sourced by Trish.
Yeah, the food actually did come from one of the groups in Brisbane that looks after homeless people, Micah, and their kitchen. So I think everyone would agree that quality was really good, and they've done a really good deal for us as well. Also, Maureen from Just Peace here. Barbara from Just Peace. And Suzanne from New Zealand was one of the working group, and Suzanne's a Wilf person from New Zealand, and she was fantastic at each of the meetings, having really great advice. And also Greg, who's here today and led one of the facilitations. So, and a big thanks, really, to Winnifred and Hema for their. I think that you managed that very, very well. I think it was quite qualitative. But the last lot of thanks really is to the QNMU for giving us access and use of this wonderful venue. And a big thanks to Janet as the QNU worker.
Thanks, Annette. I think we all know that the person, yes, all these people in the organising group I know did enormous amounts, and that was great. But we do know that Annette is the centre of this group. You know, she's brought us all together, online people included. So we've got something for you, Annette.
Thanks very much, and roll on next conference. It shouldn't only happen at conferences, but this is the second Pacific Peace Conference. I'll be working with Mary for the next one. I think it'll be a really big one. If we have that in Fiji, we're going to have a really significant and wonderful gathering of people from across the Pacific.
That would be so good.